It's guitar solo talk time. Hey, some of my favorite guitar solos are those in Badge by Cream, the 45 version of Let It Be, Baby Blue, Heart Full of Soul, the simplest thing Jeff Beck ever played in his life, but totally effective. Green River, All Along the Watchtower is a lot less complicated than it sounds. You just use some very beautiful effects. A complicated one but does still tell a story is Kid by the Pretenders, James Honeyman Scott on that one. And one of my favorites is an obscure one by Wishbone Ash called Everybody Needs a Friend, which contains pretty much every lick, technique, and style imaginable for a beginner to intermediate player to learn. It's just a crash course in everything. So I'd look that one up, Everybody Needs a Friend by Wishbone Ash. I think it's on their Wishbone 4 album. Great song. You may notice a common thread there. They're simple to play, melodic as any vocal song. They're not fast or guitar-y. I do love Mark Knopfler and Phil Keaggy and the Steves, Vi, Howe, and Morse, as well as Eric Johnson, and even Freebird. It's got some great guitars at the end, but I just can't do that. So what I have to do is slowly think out my solos, as opposed to Joe Perry, who claims he just goes into a spontaneously stream of consciousness, and he'll do several takes, but it's usually the first take is the keeper. I don't have that skill. He thrives on spontaneity. I got to think it out. Sometimes I'll actually scat sing along with the chord pattern I'm going to be playing over, and I'll get some melody ideas that way. It's good to have a tape recorder handy so you go back and maybe catch something you missed that you did, and oh, there's a good lick. And same thing with guitar. Just play over it 100 times and put the little gems together and you'll have a complete solo. You can tell I kind of have an affinity for Steve Cropper, James Burton, and Scotty Moore. All those guys played like with Otis Redding and Elvis and Ricky Nelson. Chuck Berry sure did a lot with a little simplistic and effective because they were playing for the song, not to show off their chops. So if I had chops, I'd probably want to show them off, but instead I'm going to write melodies that are good enough that they could have lyrics put over them. So give it a try. Everybody's got a different way of doing it. Woo. All right, it's guitar solo time again. I like to construct lead solos with a little opposition to the rhythm. If the chords are hitting on the 1, I come in on the 2 or the 3 and maybe just sustain a note for a while or hit a burst of 8th notes. A lot of times I'll try to come up with a melody with my voice, pretending to put lyrics to it. And that's kind of easy since most solos, in pop anyway, seem to be played over the verse music to start with. So there you got a melody to build off of. I like to do something that could have been the melody instead of the current melody. Sometimes put twin guitars in, one doing the melody and then different octaves. Tremolo guitar is one of my favorite, but I'll do the melody low and high. Sometimes that'll be a harmony. It's not Allman Brothers, but it can be interesting, and some of those will turn into fills during the real vocal parts. Just make a melody that rivals the real vocal if you're playing over the verse pattern. Sometimes I'll record that pattern 100 times and just play along. And I have a multi-track, so I record my stream of consciousness lead playing and trying to come up with ideas on track 2, and maybe I'll even do track 3 and 4, or one with a vocal, or one with a flute of all things. Then give it some time, go back. I get objective later, and I'll just hear little gems scattered throughout. And if you get enough of them, you can just tack them together and have a solo. Sequence them the way you like. It's probably not going to be in the right order, but you can tell a little story with those solos, and makes you look good if it sounds really everyone's a hook. So I can't just count on a hot licks or anything. I'm going to try to make a melody out of this thing. I solo over the pattern for a while, and then it pays to think like a vocalist or a horn player, because you'll think a different way and you'll approach the melody and the notes a different way. If you imagine a horn player, especially if you're not one, because what you think a horn player does is probably not right. So you'll come up with something even they couldn't come up with. Then transcribe the best bits for the guitar once you come up with a voice or another instrument. Piano, well, I forgot about that one. I've heard of that before, have you? Well, different phrasings and cadences come out when I play a different instrument than what I usually play. I guess you could go into a different state of mind. And then fine tuning comes up next. That's the hard part. Do you want it to be electric, acoustic, tremolo, twin harmonies, slide, use a pick or finger picking, chorus and flange, or like parallel lines with a flute maybe, with the guitar? That sounds surprisingly good. And remember that Jim Horn played the sax with the Stones? If you can get that kind of sound, it could take over a call and response thing in the solo. That's always kind of fun. Sounds very creative, but there's infinite choices, so all I can say is play for the song.